I am Kristi Pritt with the State Treasurer's Office, and I am here to talk about a new program that we launched about a year ago. And one of the things I've been doing is a division of one. So I have been crisscrossing the state trying to educate providers and anyone that works with anyone with a disability that meets these eligibility requirements that incur the disability by the age of 26. So I'm hoping if you all will, some of this information can be very beneficial and you can take it back to your counties. So this is a picture of our launch. Last year at the governor's office, and our two, Anna and Gracie, they were one of the first two in the state that signed up for this program. And it is a savings account that allows you to save more than $2,000 and not lose benefits like SSI or Medicaid. And by the way, everyone in your packets, you should have a brochure that we give out to the public, and also a one-page fact sheet, as well as I think a news article that it kind of explains the program and the importance of the program, because this is such a mindset change from what everyone has always been told. You can't have money in order to qualify for SSI or Medicaid. So West Virginia's ABLE plan. So what is ABLE? It is federal legislation that passed in 2014, and it took over 10 years to pass in Congress, but it stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience Act. And it was, so what it does is it allows states to set up investment and savings accounts for individuals with disabilities. The legislation doesn't require a state to have a program. It just allows the state and gives the state authority to create their own. So West Virginia passed the West Virginia ABLE Act in 2015 and allowed us to set up our own program. There's currently 42 states in the country that do have an ABLE program as of today. So what the accounts do is they do not impact eligibility for benefit programs such as SSI or Medicaid or any other public assistance. So what is ABLE? The ABLE accounts have hybrid functionality. They're very similar to a 529 college savings account, which is also administered by the state treasurer's office. And by the way, this legislation allows each state to have only one ABLE program, and that program is also administered by the state treasurer in each state. So it has the functionality of a 529 college savings account because it's done online, and it grows tax-free. And again, you only have one program per state. By the way, this is a 529A in the Internal Revenue Code, so it is a sister to the college savings program. And unlike the college savings program, it has the functionality of a checking account. So depending on the needs of the person with a disability, they can either save long-term or have immediate access to this money, which is really, really good. And that is a myth that a lot of people think that if they put money in this account, they cannot have access, but they can have access immediately. Also, it has the functionality of a special needs trust. And prior to the ABLE accounts, the trust was the only way to shelter a resource in order to still qualify for public assistance. So it has the functionality of all three of these.
If we use it as a special needs trust, will Medicaid still be able to go in and say, like I do a personal injury case and get $400,000 into the account? Is Medicaid going to be able to kind of take that money to get reimbursement if it's not really a special needs trust account set up?
No. Well, Medicaid, once the money is put into this account, it is excluded. Medicaid will not come back after that, only after death. And
but after death, they're going to get it, right?
Well, if Medicaid is set up, the federal legislation allows states to come back and do a 529A claim. Each state is making their own determination whether they want to do that or not, and our state, BMS, has said they will not do a 529A claim. That is their operating procedure. But however, this will become a part of the state recovery after 55 or older, or someone in a nursing or community-based waiver. That is their procedures now, but they will not do that. Now, we are also going to introduce legislation in the session to make it official in state law. 600 states have done that, but we are very happy that DHHR has stated they would not do a claim. So what is Wvable? It is our West Virginia's plan, and again, it's administered by the state treasurer's office. We just launched in February, and it's been slow getting the word out across the state. So that's why I'm trying to get you guys up to speed to help me pass the word along. It is offered to the West Virginia residents through a partnership with the state of Ohio. Ohio was the first state in the country to offer an ABLE plan, and they offered that in 2016. Their program is called Stable. They invested a lot of money getting this website and getting this program up and running, and they invited state partners. There's currently a total of 12 states in our Stable partnership. So one of the things to be mindful of is if you open a Wvable account, after the account is open, it goes to a Stable platform. So if you hear me say the word Stable accounts, it means the same thing. We're just using their platform. And on your bank statements, it will say Stable. So that's one and the same. And they are the largest, we are the largest program in the country and have the most assets under management and the most accounts in the country also. So what are the benefits of the ABLE accounts? They dramatically increase your ability to save. Before ABLE, you could not save over $2,000 or you risk losing health care or other benefits. Now you can save more. One of the misconceptions too, whenever we go over eligibility here in a minute, is you have to be on public assistance to qualify for an ABLE account. That's not true. If you do have a disability and you're not yet on public assistance, I tell people to plan, start sheltering your resources, sheltering your money, because a time may come whenever you may need a waiver or you may need Medicaid or SSI, and you can have already sheltered resources so that these will be excluded. And we'll go over eligibility here in a minute. So the benefits of the ABLE accounts, unlike they are owned by the person with a disability. That is completely different than the college savings accounts. The college savings accounts are owned by grandma, grandpa, or whoever opened the account, and the child is the beneficiary. Whoever has the disability owns these accounts, even if somebody else is managing the account on their behalf. And unlike a college savings account, you can only have one ABLE account. So there's only one account that you can have. Financial independence. For the first time, people with disabilities can save and invest and plan for the future. And also there's tax benefits. You may qualify for multiple types of tax benefits. The earnings grow tax-free. If we'll talk about ABLE to work, with the tax bill this year, the ABLE program was expanded for those that work and put money into this account. If you are working and put wages, you can qualify for the Savers Credit, which allows you to possibly get up to a $2,000 credit by putting money into this account. And we are also trying to get a state tax deduction passed in the legislature this session to mirror the 529 college savings accounts. For anybody that would put money into these accounts, they could also get a state tax deduction. So keep your fingers crossed that goes through. Eligibility. Who is eligible? West Virginia residents with disabilities that occurred prior to the age of 26. You can be at any age as long as you had the onset by the age of 26. And it doesn't have to be diagnosed as long as the onset occurred. Currently in Congress, there is an Able Age Adjustment Act to raise the age to 46. And that has not passed yet. It's still under debate, but we're hoping the age will be raised. So in addition to the age limit, you must meet one of the following criteria. If you are eligible to receive SSI or SSDI due to disability. You don't have to be receiving as long as you're eligible. Or you have a condition listed on Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowance conditions. And there is a link on our website. I had not heard of this list until I started working with the Wvable program, but Social Security has a list of every diagnosis they consider to be a disability. So if you have, and this list is mainly like cancers, diseases, leukemia. So if you find your disability on this list, you qualify. Or you can self-certify. And self-certification is a diagnosis by a physician that you have a physical or mental impairment that causes marked or severe functional limitations. The condition must last for more than 1 year. And whenever you do your online application, you don't have to provide any documentation. You just have to state that you're certifying that a physician has made the diagnosis, and you just need to include the physician name, date, and date of diagnosis. And that's one thing about our plan, and if you look at other plans across the country, they all have different documentation requirements, and we are very pleased that our application process is very simple. So whenever you go through the application process, there'll be a series of questions. And what we tell people is make sure you can, in case the IRS would ask, in case Social Security would ask, or DHHR, you can validate all of your responses in the application. But you don't have to upload a diagnosis, you don't have to upload proof you receive SSI, you just certify everything you're telling us in the application is correct.
I need to ask you a question. I'm sitting here thinking about what you're saying, and it would seem to me that based upon the criteria you have here, any Vietnam veteran
Yes.
who has been diagnosed with the least little bit of a disability, whether it's a hearing loss, Agent Orange, post-traumatic stress disorder, would qualify for these programs.
Yes, and you make a very, very good point, and thank you. This program is for any child, adult that has a disability. So a veteran is one of our target populations that we try to hit, especially if they're age-raised, it's going to benefit them more. A lot of veterans may not be on Medicaid or SSI, but however, where else can you put money in and it grow tax-free? And so it could be a physical or mental disability. Correct. So just be thinking of, you may have a neighbor that may benefit, this would benefit them.
But only if their age of onset was before age 26.
Yes. So unfortunately, if you have a soldier on the battlefield, one got injured at the age of 25 and one at 28, one is only the 25-year-olds eligible.
Vietnam was during the draft time. They were all under 26,
Yeah.
including those that died.
Yeah. So, but we're hoping to age raise, and again, a lot of people ask if they're like, there's a lot of people, I think the average age in our plan is 35. So just be thinking, people think that it's because they're older than 26 are not eligible, they are.
Can a parent fund this with a will?
Yes. We'll go over limits here in a minute, but these can be funded by any source. So enrollment, the enrollment is all done online at Wvable.com, and it takes about 10 to 20 minutes, and it's going to go over the questions that we kind of just went over about the eligibility and the age. And there's a $50 minimum opening deposit. I get a lot of questions about can I go to a bank to set this up? No, unfortunately, it's all done online. But a lot of people have went to banks and they call me and they said the bank didn't know anything about it. The bank will not unless they just heard about the program. So just remember, everything is done online at our website. And by the way, you have a pin. If you can take that pin with you, it also has the website and our program manager's number on the pin. So who can open the account? Either the individual with the disability and they are referred to as the beneficiary whenever you're setting up the account. And remember, they own the account. But if they don't have the capacity to manage their own account, or if they are a child, an authorized legal representative can open on their behalf and manage on their behalf. And the IRS and Social Security have defined, they have defined an authorized legal representative as either a parent, guardian/conservator, or power of attorney. It can be a parent of an adult. In West Virginia, a lot of people that may not have the capacity as an adult, the parents have never went and officially got guardianship or conservatorship on their behalf, but they still can manage on behalf as a parent. Power of attorney. The beneficiary or the parent, if they do not want to manage the account, they have the authority to do a limited power. They can do a power of attorney to someone else to manage. And we do have a limited power of attorney form on our website for those individuals that may not have a power of attorney. And this limited power of attorney is one page, and it only gives the authority to someone to manage an ABLE account only. Because unfortunately, the legislation by having these three categories, it is kind of narrow, and sometimes not everybody falls in, immediately has a guardian, conservator, or power of attorney. And again, whenever you're doing the application is going to ask who you are. It's going to ask if you are the authorized legal representative, and it's going to ask some information. If you are a power of attorney, a guardian, you do not have to upload information. You just have to say who you are. And again, especially if you use our power of attorney form, just complete the form and stick it in your audit file just in case anyone ever questions your legality. So after you set up your account, how do you get the account funded? There's two ways. You can link it to a checking account and do an electronic transfer, or you can mail a check. And again, remember, this is not a bank. There's no bank to go to. You don't receive a checkbook. So there's instructions online to mail checks, and the checks go to Columbus, since Ohio is our partner, and they will deposit the check. You just have to put an account number and the name of the person that owns the account on the check. So funding your account, there is a $15,000 annual contribution limit per calendar year, and this corresponds to the federal gift tax exclusion amount. So whenever that amount increases, this amount will increase also. That first $15,000 can come from any source whatsoever. It can come from grandmother, grandfather, wills, wages, whatever you choose. SSI, it can come from that. Just note that you are saving money from your SSI check to an ABLE account. If you are employed, last year with the new tax law changes, Able to Work was passed. And what Able to Work did was allow individuals that are working and not contributing to another retirement account during that calendar year, they can increase, they can put an additional $12,140 into this account, and that has to be from wages. And that was the tax credit that I was referring to a while ago. So if you are putting money into this account and of your wages, you can possibly qualify for up to a $2,000 tax credit. And what the federal government decided was that, especially if you're on SSI or Medicaid, you can't have over $2,000, and especially if you have a 401k, the 401k counts as an asset. So they have kind of switched gears and kind of incentivize people to use this as a retirement account also. So, so I advise people, if you are working and getting benefits, even though this is post-tax, use this as your retirement account. Over the lifetime, you can put up to $468,000 into this account, which will take about 30 years to get to that limit. But that number will adjust also as our plan adjusts. And by the way, the system will automatically reject excess contributions. So if your contribution is limits $15,000 and you are getting checks mailed to this account or deposited from multiple sources, once it hits that limit, the system will reject and not deposit that because it's a safeguard, because anything above the $15,000 would count as a resource for that year. So it also has a really nice e-gift event. So once you set up an account, and you can send an email blast to family and friends, or the community, or whoever you would like, and saying, it's my birthday, or I need some assistance with hearing aids, or whatever you need. That link will go to their email, and they can put money directly into this account, and it keeps track of who has donated. The gifts will not affect benefits. And again, we are hoping to get passed in the legislature this year a state tax deduction for those people that contribute to these accounts. You can either use the e-gift event, or again, anybody can still mail a check to the account. So it can come from any source. But this is a very nice, very similar to a GoFundMe ability. Investment options. Whenever you set up the account, you have the option of setting up between 4 Vanguard mutual funds ranging from aggressive to conservative. And our plan also has one FDIC principal insured option. And not all plans across the country have that FDIC insured option. And especially with working with these individuals with disabilities, they've never saved before and they're nervous about putting their money in the market. So if they put it in the FDIC insured, they will not lose money. However, their interest will not be a whole lot, but it all depends on how much risk the person's going to take and how much their long-term plan is. If you're going to keep it in here for 20 years, you may want to invest. But you can move the money around. It's very similar to you can move your current investments up to 2 times a year and future allocations indefinitely. But as long as the allocation equals 100%, you are good. And across the country, we are seeing about 50% of all the money is people are putting in the bank safe option, or a similar option, depending on what type of account is in another state. So spending from your account, make sure, yeah. Spending from your account, withdrawals must be used for qualified disability expenses. And the law is very, very liberal on this definition. It basically is anything that relates to the disability, and it must help maintain or improve your health, independence, or quality of life. So that is pretty much anything. These are just buckets because there is nowhere in the IRS code that has allowable versus non-allowable expenses. But it can be used for housing or rent, basic living expenses such as food, transportation, and it can be if you need to have a caregiver have transportation on your behalf, that's allowable. And that's one big difference between this and a lot of restrictions of a trust. These funds can indirectly benefit other people. I mean, just like the transportation. If someone else is benefiting from that, this is still an allowable expense, but the main thing is it has to benefit that person. Education. Also with the tax bill last year, you are now allowed to roll your college savings 529 accounts over to an Able account. So you can spend it on education plus roll that over with no penalties. And that is great for individuals that maybe their child developed a disability. And they have a college savings account, but if they roll it over to Able, you now have immediate access to the money, and you can still use it for education purposes. These are other just buckets, and again, this is not all inclusive, and you can even use it for burial expenses. Spending from your account, it's free withdrawals and no limits. Get questions all the time. Do I have to fill out a form kind of like flexible spending and justify it? No, you do not. This is just like a check. You can use it just like a checking account, but again, what we advise people, whenever you do spend, keep that Able file, and whenever you have a receipt, make sure if you're buying an iPad or if you're going to the movies, how does that, make a little note for your file just in case the IRS would audit your account. is how does this benefit the health independence and maintain the health independence and quality of life of that person. 3 ways to get the money out of the account. You can transfer it back to your checking account or savings account, whatever account you linked. We tell people to be very careful if you do that because it gets commingled with your other money. So if you do transfer it, make sure you know how you are spending it. Also, there's the ability to go on and do online bill pay. We like this because it doesn't commingle and you can make a note of what the money is being spent on. And also there's a third option, the stable card. And again, Wvable or stable will never ask you how you spend your money, but always be prepared for benefit agencies like the IRS or maybe Social Security to ask. And by the way, Social Security does have procedures on this as well as DHHR, but Social Security does get an upload the first day of the month for everybody in the country that has an ABLE account and how much they dispersed the previous month. So whenever if someone's checking in and doing reporting their income or reporting their assets limits, all they have to do is say that they transfer money from their checking account over, or there's a reason why there's a high balance or whatever is because it's an ABLE account, and Social Security should be able to trace that very quickly. The stable card. We really like the stable card. It is a loadable prepaid debit card that is linked to your stable account. It's a separate website to manage, but you, in case someone loses the card, it's not tied to the whole account. It's loadable. You go onto the website and you can control the merchants. You can say this Walmart or just use it as a Target, or you can just say I just want to use this for gas or food. So you can control the parameters of this card. Also, after you swipe the card, you can go back online and it keeps track of all the transactions, and you can take pictures and upload the receipts so you'll have an audit trail. If you lose the card, you can deactivate the card. Also, if you are the authorized legal representative, you can request a primary card, and if you have like a child or somebody you're managing for, you can request a companion card. And that companion card can also have a separate balance, and you can set it up to have control features to give that person independence, have their name on their card, and you can also get alerts from whenever they swipe the card so you can keep track of how they're spending. Supplemental security income considerations. Basically, what Social Security has said is that any balance over $100,000 in this account will count as a resource. But if that occurs and it triggers that person over that $2,000 limit, SSI will merely suspend, not terminate. So once the account balance goes back down below $100,000, SSI will resume. Medicaid is never impacted. Medicaid does not care how much is in this account. It's still sheltered, only in SSI. Since these accounts nationally are only 3 years old, Ohio has the oldest program, no one has more than $45,000, $50,000 typically in their account. So we have not reached that $100,000 limit yet. The other consideration from Social Security says if you hold onto the money from one calendar month to the next, then housing expenditures count as resources. Anything else, they don't care if you transfer out and sit on it, like if you're going to buy a car, $10,000, pull it out and earmark it, and roll from one month to the next, they don't care. But for some reason, Social Security says if you're going to pay for rent, housing, or anything related to housing, like utilities, it has to be paid the month that it's due. So we advise people don't transfer money out for housing, because if you are reporting to Social Security and they ask you what that money is sitting in your account for the first day of the month, and if you haven't spent it and it's for housing, they can count that as a resource. So what we tell people to do, if you're going to pay for housing related items, to be on the 100% safe side, do online bill pay. That way it does not hit your account. There's no way by chance that the landlord forgets to cash the check and that large balance is sitting in your account. Also, beneficiaries' wages still count as income, even if you put it directly, your paycheck directly into this account. This account only protects your resource limit of $2,000. It does not shelter income. So those are the main three considerations for Social Security. So what happens if the account holder passes away? It will go to the account holder's estate. The administrator notifies Able and can take over the account access. There is no beneficiary upon death. So if the beneficiary does not have a will, then the account will go through the normal probate process. The only way to transfer the account out of someone's name prior to death is if the person had a sibling with a disability, then they can transfer and roll the program. Medicaid services, and this answers your question in the back. The money in a stable account is better protected than any other accounts that you can put money into. And our Medicaid office has stated that they will only recover payments from the estate of the Medicaid recipient ages 55 and older, having a nursing home or community-based waiver service per the Estate Recovery Act. But post-death, something to consider is all outstanding bills can still be paid from this account, and even funeral expenses, and even deduct Medicaid buy-ins before going through the probate process. Account cost. There's a minimal cost for opening an account or managing an account. It's $3.50 a month. And the asset-based fees are 0.19 and 0.33%, and those fees are extremely comparable to our college savings account, which is one of the largest also in the country. Stable account and special needs trust. You don't have to have both. A lot of people don't have the resources to have a trust, but if you do, they can complement each other. Trust now can be written or amended to allow for a qualified distribution up to the maximum annual amount, which this year is $15,000, to roll over to a stable account. Yes.
And you may have covered it. If you have, I apologize. How does bankruptcy, what's the impact of bankruptcy on this account?
Good question. In the plan disclosure document on our website, there is a up to a certain limit. Probably the best thing for me to get your name and reference you to that the legal section of the plan disclosure. And I don't think it's immediately, depending, especially if the child's more protected, but if the parent, if the person themselves is filing the bankruptcy, there's like a window of like 6 months to 2 years to how much they can come back after. But there is a bankruptcy section of the plan disclosure document, and there's a PDF file at the bottom of our website.
Okay.
Children are more safe. I'm sorry. Children are more safe than the adult. So if you choose to, you can write in the transfer from the trust. And also, able accounts have broader spending power than a trust does, especially for housing and food. And one of the tips that if the parent is helping with rent for someone, their SSI checks usually decrease for in-kind contributions. If the parent would put the money into the ABLE account and then the person pay the rent from the ABLE account, SSI will not reduce their check, or Social Security will not reduce the check. So there are benefits from putting the money and paying from the account. We are hoping to get a state tax deduction for our contributions. And again, there's no federal or income tax on earnings. And it can be established and administered by the person with a disability, unlike a trust. So we are here to help. We have a program manager that manages all 12 states. I do not have access to people's accounts. Our program manager does, and that's the 1-800 number. My number is the state number at the state treasurer's office. Since this is a new program, I do field a lot of calls each day about people just still unsure that they're so nervous that they're going to lose benefits if they open an account. So even though the 1-800 number is out there, if you are talking with somebody and would like more information, have them call me. I can help them make a decision whether this is good for them. Wvable.com is our website. And please spread the message. We have been doing a kind of a marketing campaign, and we have a advisory committee made up with groups, advocacy groups, and people and organizations that work with disabilities. So we try to put information out there, and we ask these groups to share the information, because typically, if someone has a disability, they're not going to come to the treasurer's office website and discover this program. So we leave it up to you all to let people know that this program exists. So please, if your organization can like us on Facebook, and then if we do post something about this program with some trainings, please share it so the word can get out. Also, I have brought some extra material out in the hallway. Especially, we have some posters and kind of talking about the program. And this is pictures of Anna and Gracie, one of the first 2 kids in the state that signed up. But if you all can grab some material whenever you leave, take it back to your county, or even just put something like this in your office or someplace where somebody may see it. Again, it's not just children. It could be a veteran or anyone else that has a disability does not know this program exists, and it's a good way to shelter your resource, to qualify for benefits, or plan ahead for the future. Someday you may need to shelter your resources, and you've already done that. Does anyone have any questions?
How does this affect people that are in nursing homes? Checks are being directed to pay part of the nursing home bill and Medicaid pays the rest. Can we switch those checks now to this payroll account and not have to pay the nursing home?
I don't. That's a DHHR question. First of all, a lot of people in the nursing home may not be, once they had the onset of their disability by the age of 26, they may not qualify. But my understanding is you're still going to have to pay. You're not going to be able to transfer the wealth over to this account at that point in time.
Well, it's not wealth, it's monthly.
Well, anybody else?
I have 2 questions, actually. Can you change your status from not employed to employed?
Yes.
And you said that unless they have a will, they can't pass it on to someone, but the person can draft a will to pass the benefits on their death.
Yes. With the able to work legislation, that they've expanded the website to ask, whenever they start asking if you're working, or it will ask if you work and contribute to another retirement account. If you do, it's not going to raise that threshold. But if you are working and not contributing to a 457 or a pension or a 401k, whenever you say you are working and not doing that, it's going to remove that hard stop of $15,000 and let you go up to $27,000. Then, whenever you do, if you do electronic transfers into this account, from that point on, it's going to ask you to identify whether they're general contributions or wages. So that, therefore, they can keep track of that. Because anything above the $15,000 has to be wages. The first $15,000 can come from any source, but including wages. But if you do, even if you're not doing the able to work, you can still put your wages in there. And regarding the post-death, whatever the normal, if the person doesn't have a will, whatever the state law, however that's.
But I'm saying they can draft a will and pass it.
Are there any protections still to criminal misuse of funds?
It would be turned over to, that is a concern, because anybody can get on there and they certify that they're doing everything correct. it would be, just like misappropriations of any other bank account or whatever, it would be handled the same way.
Say the amount of rent, parents starting their wife car, using car, legal fees, there's no monitoring of those amounts.
No. You're going to serve, if you do a distribution each year, you're going to receive a 1099, and just like a college savings, whenever you do a withdrawal, and whenever the tax return is completed, it's going to say you had a distribution from your ABLE account or these qualified expenses, and you'll mark yes. If the IRS would audit your tax return, then everything in your tax return can come under audit, and you should make sure you have documentation to validate that those expenses were for the benefit of that person. The IRS, Social Security, first of the month, they also can ask questions, and they are specifically looking to make sure you're not having holding money from one month to the next for housing-related items. They will count that. If you do have money sitting in your account, they want to make sure it's earmarked for anything that's not housing-related. And DHHR can possibly ask questions also.
If there were a guardian service order appointed, that person functioning as the intermediary representing the fund has to make an accounting. Is that a protection?
Whoever's managing this account should keep an audit file, and there's nowhere in the rules, the IRS rules or Social Security rules, that states how that's to look. But just like how you create a tax file or any other documentation, I advise people, whenever you set up the account, it takes about 10 minutes. It's going to ask questions about your disability, about who you are. Just make sure you can provide proof. If you say you're on SSI, make sure you have a letter, or you can provide proof if you're audited that you're eligible because you receive SSI. And then regarding the receipts, we tell people to maintain a file of receipts, and always, as time goes by, you forget what that receipt was for. Go ahead and make a note on that receipt, what it was for and how it benefited that person, especially if you're paying for a caregiver, or you end up going to the movies or something, which improves the quality of life. Make sure you make a note on that that was for that person.
If they use the debit card, they will be auditing it each month.
Pardon?
Before. The debit card that can be set up and the money put on it, will they be looking at that each month?
Yeah, each month, whatever Social Security, once the money goes on that debit card, it has the same rules as other funds. Social Security, if they are talking to that person at the first day of the month, they will be monitoring the balances of that card also. And that's why we do like the debit card, because it does have a separate website. Every time you swipe the card, it does say, like CVS Pharmacy. You can go back online and make a little note that it was for blood pressure medicine, and you can take a picture of the receipt. But you can manage that card with not putting a large balance on there. So we do suggest, if you're not going to spend maybe $500 a month, don't put $10,000 on the card, because then you have to account for why you didn't spend that $10,000. Any more questions?
So if a child was in a car accident and they have money that they are supposed to receive when they were 18, now SSI is counting that as an asset to them, and they roll that over into an ABLE account?
Yes. Yeah, $15,000 is the threshold. But any way that you, before ABLE, you would probably set up a trust, correct? Yeah. So this, if it meets that limit, this is a very easy way to manage that. But the money can come from any source and be sheltered. Now, once the money comes out, you still have to apply normal SSI accounting rules and exclusions. So you can only have one house, one car, but it's still, you're able to spend it on the needs if you need. If anybody has any questions, please call my office. I'll be willing to come to your county if you have any parents or anybody that wants to know more about the program. So just let me know. Thank you very much.